Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, Reiki master, and intuitive astrologer. And I say intuitive astrologer because I really allow my knowledge and all the things that I have learned, the different schools of astrology, and I let them sort of come together in a way that I do when I'm doing my card readings with the angels, and allowing myself to let my intuitions lead the way, and thereby synthesizing the knowledge that I've learned. So this month, February 2020, is going to be an interesting month astrologically. Today, Mercury goes retrograde. Mercury rules our everyday events. Mercury rules communications. It rules short-term travel. It rules writing, reading, comprehension, how we think, how we learn. It rules communications in general. And when Mercury is going retrograde, it gives, the planet Mercury gives the appearance of going backwards in the sky. Symbolically, it is really, rather than thinking of things going backwards, it gives us an opportunity to revisit, to reassess, to review, to evaluate, and to rest, to give ourselves a moment to allow the mind to calm down so that inspiration may come through. So Mercury retrogrades happen usually 3 times a year, sometimes more or less, depending upon the year. And they're relatively benign. I wouldn't go buy a new computer or an electric car or any kind of car or electronic device during a Mercury retrograde, but I would certainly do my research about it. So given the idea that Mercury is retrograde for most of the month of February, it will give us an opportunity to really reflect on what we want to do moving forward. We have on the 1st, Venus will enter Aquarius. And on the 11th of February, we will have 6 out of 10 planets in the sign of Aquarius. This is very, very interesting because the children born during that time period will be revolutionary by nature, innovative by nature, genius in some ways. They'll be super connected to the collective and to humanity. But for those of us that have been on the planet for a while, what does this mean for us? Having the sun, the moon, Saturn, Jupiter, Venus, and Mercury retrograde in Aquarius. Aquarius, it rules innovation, it rules space, it rules astrology, it rules technology, it rules the collective, it rules our hopes and our desires. It rules, in many ways, an ability to make money. It's one of the money houses. And having so many planets concentrated in one area is significant. It's a focal point. It's a almost feels like a hot spot of energy. And if we think about the planets in play, we've got the sun, the moon, and Mercury, and Venus, which move relatively quickly. And then we have Saturn and Jupiter, which move relatively slowly. Jupiter will be in Aquarius for a year and Saturn approximately 2 years. So what I think is going on here is an opportunity for us to really decide and think about where we've planted ourselves. Where are we planting ourselves on the internet? What are we looking at? What are we perusing? What are we contemplating in the way of what kind of content we're putting on the internet? Because these are creating communities, and these thoughts become things on the internet. They become tangible. I also think that this month gives us an opportunity to reflect on how we are living our lives. Saturn rules Aquarius in ancient times, and Saturn is about stoic behaviors, doing things for, not because we want to do them, but because they're either expected of us, or they're the role we've been assigned, or what we feel duty towards. And then in modern times, Uranus rules Aquarius. Uranus, again, revolution, rebellion, liberation, individuality, individuality that I internalize so that I can then bring it back into the collective and offer it up. So we have this kind of polarizing energies representing one sign. And I find myself musing on, well, how did the ancients come up with that? How did they assign Aquarius Saturn and then completely flip the script? Well, this is what I think. I think what it means is that when we work hard and we purport a sort of stoic behavior, not looking at the reward that Aquarius in the 11th house offers us, but rather working hard at what our heart yearns for. If we allow ourselves to liberate ourselves into our individuality, then these two planets work very cooperatively together. And it is the marrying of these two polarizing energies into one synthesized dynamic of ebb and flow, putting the gas on and taking the gas off, pulling my sight up and then getting down into the detail and working through the minutia. All right, so I bring all that up in Aquarius because this amount of energy in this planet is going to affect everybody. And I believe with Jupiter being there and Mercury being, because Mercury and Jupiter, so that happens on February 11th, and that's going to happen for a few days. During this period of time, on the 14th in the Pacific time zone, on Valentine's Day, Jupiter, the planet of faith, expansion, good luck, wealth, is going to be conjunct Mercury retrograde. So it may be a day where, as a result of this cluster of planets in one place, we've been reviewing how we feel about how I assert myself out into the world, the I am, represented by the sun, how I feel on the inside, which may not be congruent with what I'm showing to the outside, the moon, where I'm taking stoic behaviors, Saturn, what I really believe about the situation, Jupiter, Venus, how do I value myself and what do I want for myself in the way of possessions and material comfort, and then Mercury, how do I think about myself? All of these things are coming together at one time, and they're sort of creating this infusion of epiphanies and explosions. And if we are authentic to both the epiphany and the explosion, we won't see destruction. We'll see demolition. We'll see the breaking down of old walls that will then usher in opportunities for new dynamics, for a new home built on the foundation of the old. And I think on the 17th of February, we will have, I don't think, I know, that the planet Uranus, we just talked about Uranus, liberation, rebellion, is going to be in an exact square with Saturn. Saturn being in Aquarius and transit Uranus being in Taurus. So this is going to amplify the theme of the month. The theme of the month is, how do I think? Are my thoughts serving me? Are they what I really believe? And am I purporting the behaviors that are authentic to what I want to experience? We have Mercury going direct on the 20th. So this is kind of a very concentrated 3-week period of time. It is a time when I personally would think, float on your back. Don't try to push up against a headwind. Don't try to swim against the ocean as it's going the opposite direction you are. Because as you allow yourself to float on your back, metaphorically, the sun will shine on your face. You will inadvertently detoxify thoughts that aren't serving you and be inspired by new thoughts that will serve you. And as Mercury starts to go direct, we do have the storm period when it appears to sit stationary in the sky, giving it 5 times more power than normal. And then on the 25th, Venus, the planet of our self-worth, of our possessions, of our beauty, of our art, our music, of the things we find pleasure in, is going to be moving into Pisces. And Venus loves being in Pisces. It's like being in her best friend's house with a great bottle of wine and an amazing spread of food and a set of movies that are so fun to watch. It's like the best time ever. So I want to offer you all an opportunity to look at these astrological dynamics that are really like a weather forecast, because we will be swimming through them whether we do it consciously or unconsciously. And the more consciously we can do it, we can then know when to rest and allow Mercury's retrograde to revitalize us and rejuvenate us through that rest, through the awareness that I can think about something all day long, but I can't do anything about it right now. So do the thoughts serve me? Are they strategic thoughts, or are they borderline worries? Because worries are forms of prayer that don't serve me. They put my attention and my intention in the very experience I don't want to have, and inadvertently kick in the laws of attraction. All right, so now let's go on to our sun signs. I'm going to do a 4-card spread. It's actually 8 cards because I use 2 decks, but for all intents and purposes, it's a 4-position spread. And I'm going to go by sun sign. So if your birthday is in the beginning of August and you're a Leo, most people know their sun sign, you want to check that. If you are more savvy with astrology, I would check my rising sign first. Then I would check my moon. The rising is who I am on the inside, the dreams, what I want, what I know I can be, but I haven't shown it to the world. The moon is what I feel, the depths of my emotions, the good, the bad, and the ugly, what I don't show other people. And then the sun is how I shine my light into the world. It's the face I wear out in public. And so all 3 are extremely important to your life path. But for me, I'm very much my Aries rising and then my Taurus moon. And I think the least influential, and yet thank God it's there, is my Libra sun. So if you don't know the specifics of your birth chart, you can go to a free birth calculator. There's a ton of them on the internet. You will need to know the exact time of your birth and location because the rising sign and the moon sign can change very quickly. So let's go and start with Aries and work our way towards Pisces and see what Spirit has to say for you for the month of February 2021. These are your heavenly horoscopes. All right. Our first angel for Aries is Archangel Gabriel. The second is Francesca. The third is Serena. And the final is Archangel Uriel. The first position represents the foundation, the platform with which we're stepping out on in February. The second position represents the opportunity and or the obstacle. One coin, 2 sides. Every opportunity has an inherent obstacle and every obstacle has an inherent opportunity. The third represents the angel's advice for taking advantage of the opportunity or getting around the obstacle. And the final position is the potential outcome for the month. The potential energetic, what we've accomplished, where do we sit, where we're starting March with. So for Aries, we have Archangel Gabriel, who talks about arts and communications, and to please turn over any insecurities that you may have to her and allow her to transform them into something that is much more powerful. Because right now the ego is very much crawling up your grill, Aries, and maybe telling you, you've been sitting around, you haven't gotten anything done. This whole COVID thing has really messed you up. You haven't been able to take any action. And if you don't take action, nothing's going to happen. Archangel Gabriel is saying, no, that's not necessarily true. Remember your inner dialogue, your self-talk. It is the beginning of your manifestation, because in the opportunity and or the obstacle, Aries, is Francesca saying, what do you visualize right now? Focus on that, because negativity will block your progress. And then we have the communications card. So there could very well be a very strong influence or emphasis on what is not. And the more you put emphasis on what is not, the more it's not going to be there. Because in the angel's advice, we have Serena, the angel of straight up money and abundance, and we have the wealth card. And so this really intimates to me that Aries, and if you're an Aries rising, as I am, this month's concentrated energy that I was speaking about at the beginning of the video is happening in your 11th house of networks, of friends. And the third house is also friends, but this is a network, social media, people you know there. It's also your hopes and your desires and your ability to make money. So what I feel like is that there's much more under the hood, as they say, than you can see with your physical eyes right now. And it's starting to mess with your self-confidence. And that's why Archangel Gabriel is saying, turn over your insecurities to me. Do not fight with your ego. Just remind your ego that there is a baton pass going on, that it isn't always about Aries pushing something forward. And the best way that I can potentially start to create movement during a Mercury retrograde is to pay attention to what I speak of, not just to other people, but to myself. Because there are things happening in the universe that you can't see right now. And in the final position, I believe that Aries is going to be liberated from some of the anger and frustration that you've been feeling. Archangel Uriel helps us deal with unforgiveness, anger, and resentment. This is a key thing in the Martian energy, to be a little pissed off. And, being an Aries rising, I can say that. But here's the cat. The cat represents 9 lives. It represents independence and healthy boundaries. And to me, this is healthy boundaries from my anger and my resentment. Because as an Aries, when I really look at the dynamics of things, I will see that it may be more fertile for me to be in a strategic mode right now, in a planning mode, in a reevaluation and reviewing mode, so that I don't have to do double work next month when this retrograde is over. I do believe that as we get past the first quarter of 2021, we're going to start to adopt a new normal. And while we may not be where we were in 2019, I don't know if any of us want to go back to 2019 as much as we want to have a elevated version of our lives. And I think that that's where we're headed. So for my Aries overall, be very mindful of your self-talk this month. Be very mindful of how much you're focusing in on what's not working. Whether you're right or not is not really relevant. It's more about, is that self-talk serving where you want to go, or is it anchoring you where you have been and where you are? All right, let's go on to our Tauruses. Now, as I'm shuffling, I want to mention for my Tauruses, you have Uranus transiting your house where your sun sign is. It could be any one of the houses. I don't know how much y'all know about astrology. I have a diverse audience, so that's why sometimes I play to the beginner. But depending upon what house your sun is in, it's going to be very much transformed. So let's say that you're a second house Taurus sun. This would have to do with your resources, your money, your possessions, your sense of self. Uranus is going to liberate you from anything that is not serving your highest and greatest good. It's also can in some ways be a little shocking how things happen. So you may be planning things a certain way, and in your Taurus energy, you may be saying, well, if I plot along in this way, this is the outcome that will happen. And then out of nowhere, some new technology is implemented and then rolled out, and all of a sudden your plans change. Uranus rules technology. So I'm just going there as a general example. Let's see what the angels have to say for you, Taurus, for the month of February 2021. Our first angel is Isabella, saying, yes, the timing is right. Layla is in the opportunity and or the obstacle. Athena is in the angel's advice, and Opal is in the final position. We have, joining Isabella, is the owl. Yes, the time is right to start to decide what is wise for you and where you have been deceiving yourself. Mercury retrogrades are all about review. Layla, in the opportunity and or the obstacle, is asking you to talk to God and the angels about your desires and your intentions, and to give life to a new beginning. In the angel's advice, we have Athena saying that it's safe for you to lovingly assert yourself into a new direction. This is what the horse means to me. It's very much an intuitive animal, and you may be getting a pull to move into a new direction. You just may not know how to do that. And that is evidence as Opal is represents our children on heaven and earth being cared for by God and the angels, and then the death card. This is not about literal children here. This is about my ideas, my creative ideas, my ideas for thriving within my life. Whether we realize it or not, our ideas are very much like babies to us. When our ideas are celebrated by others, we feel good about ourselves. And when our ideas are poo-pooed by others, we feel not so good about ourselves. So Taurus, God and the angels are saying, yes, the timing is right to really review and reflect on what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Where there has been wisdom in some of the destructive things that have happened in your life, where that destruction or that disruption offered you a doorway to your dreams. And now are you brave enough to walk through it? Because you are in an unstable new beginning. And that unstable new beginning is because you have no practice at it. And Taurus is a fixed sign. Taurus wants to do something and then do it the way it knows how to do it. It doesn't shift easily. So when you're embarking upon something new, it's going to take a lot of love and courage for you to give yourself permission to truly assert yourself. And now for me, with Athena in the angel's advice, this assertion is not so much in the physical. This is more in my assertion to the angelic realm and discussing further the details of how I want my life to look and where I want to go. Because the transformation that is being offered to you this month will come, whether you want it to or not. And when I say transformation, it doesn't necessarily mean that physically your world is going to change. You could change on the inside very much, meaning you could decide that some of the things you have feared, there is no evidence of. They are fears that maybe you inherited from a previous generation. Money doesn't grow on trees. Don't ask for things we can't afford. And then inadvertently, you just got used to not giving yourself things because somehow you could never afford them. And then maybe during this time, and I'm looking at the Saturn Uranus square, it will be exact at 7 degrees on the 17th. The 7th house, partnerships, diplomacy, compromise, give and take. That's what the 7th house represents. So for me, for Taurus, I feel like this is really a really wonderful month for you to really evaluate and look at what has served you. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If there are structures that you enjoy, then build upon them. But if you see a brick wall coming and you know it's that brick wall, don't pretend it's a gate. Don't pretend it's a chain link fence that you can jump over, because you know it's a brick wall. And every time you get there, you hit it. Stop hitting it and surrender, because I believe that God has something much more beautiful to reveal to you that you put in your plan, that you put into the contract of what you wanted to experience here on this earth plane. And all this breaking away of the old is only to serve a bigger vision of what you wanted for yourself. All right, let's go on to Gemini. Gemini, your ruling planet Mercury is retrograde this month. And it is joining many, many other planets in Aquarius. So interesting to me when there's I remember Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter. he had a stellium in Aquarius, which I found so interesting because he was so connected to animals and the earth, and technology is so much associated with Aquarius and innovation. And when I mused about it for a while, I realized how innovative he was about bringing his message to the public, to humanity, the 11th house, through the media, which was appropriate at the time that he was still here on this earth. So, all right, here we go. Gemini, what does Spirit have to say for you in this very, I want to say these are challenging times, but they're pivotal times. They're times to make great leaps in our belief system so that we can then experience them on the earth plane. All right, Gemini. In the foundational position is Layla. In the opportunity or the obstacle is Opal. In the angel's advice is Indriel. And in the final position is Xana. We have Layla being joined by the love card. We have Opal being joined by the cat. We have Indriel being joined by the king. And then we have Xana being joined by Merlin. So it is February. I don't know about the rest of the world, but here in the United States, we celebrate Valentine's Day. And for my Gemini ruled, or my Gemini sun people ruled by Mercury, Mercury's going to be conjunct, which means it's going to be sitting exactly at the same degree as Jupiter, the planet of good luck, the planet of, in ancient times, the planet of the husband. In more modern times, we think of it as mentors, as people we respect who have a great amount of knowledge, both philosophically, religiously, spiritually, educationally. And where I'm getting at this is I believe that this particular month, it is very important for you to allow yourself to settle in on your deeper truth, because Layla is asking you to spend time telling God and the angels your intentions and your desires about love. This is not what you think that you can manifest. This is not looking down the historic road of your broken love life and saying, well, I think I'm just going to settle for this. I haven't seen anything better come along. No, this is an elevated conversation with God and the angels, because God is in charge of how your love life is going to roll. God and the angels are in charge of how your meetings, how that ninth life that cat didn't know was there, how it shows up. And part of it is because you are part of a light worker team. This is the angel's advice. Indriel, the light worker, and then we have the king. And this is a card of justice. For me, this is a karmic card. And in this position, I believe for my Geminis who are still inviting love in or would like a renewed experience within their love life, I believe that there are many of us that will be lit up by love in a more seasoned chapter of our lives. And it's not because we had to wait or because we're being punished, but because we as souls have chosen to revitalize the aging experience and to offer others the experience of our love life being vital and being active and being thriving at an age when most people would think it might be dumbing down. Because in the final position, Gemini, I have Xana, the angel of protection, and I have Merlin. Merlin is the grand wizard. Again, justice, balance, alchemy. Alchemy is the formula of taking a semi-precious metal and putting it in a pressurized situation to make it a precious metal. And that's your love life. So I want to offer this month, as we're in the Mercury retrograde, it's not about seeking love. It's not about going on the internet and starting to swipe right or reject left. It's about getting real with yourself about what you want, what you desire in the way of partnership. And rather than judging whether or not it is viable, if it's attainable, that's not your job. Your job is to turn that over to spirit and to sit in a place of open anticipation, so that even if you don't believe it, right now, you're willing to have somebody change your mind. And I'm not talking about somebody being a lover coming in. I'm talking about an experience within yourself that says there's a team working for me, and I can't always see what that team is. But if I can quiet my mind, I can feel them in my heart. All right, let's go on to our Cancers. Here we go for February 2021. All right, my Cancers. Our first angel is Shanti, the angel of peace. The second is Chantal, the angel of love. The third is Celeste, the angel of happy moves. And the final is Isabella, giving us a thumbs up. Yay! Well, Cancer, this looks good. Let's see. Joining Shanti, the angel of peace, is the queen. Joining Chantal, the angel of romance, is the dog, representing unconditional love, loyalty, and sincerity. Joining Celeste is the focus card, and joining Isabella is the joy card. This is a beautiful spread. And I want to offer it this way for my Cancers. Shanti is the angel of peace. And peace is something that we do not chase. It's not something we achieve because we've been behaving well. It is an invitation that we invite in through our perspective. And I think very much that when it comes to your love life, Cancer, it's about realizing that you are in a receptive energy and that your love life is much more fertile than you would give it credit for. The queen represents feminine energy, being of a female gender, represents sexuality, friendships, and fertility. And for me, the angel of peace is saying that if you've been looking for love, you've been looking in all the wrong places because there's no place you can look for love. Love is an invitation in. So here in your opportunity and or your obstacle is Chantal. Chantal is saying that romance is imminent, either the resurgence of a romance or a newcomer coming in, and there's the dog. Unconditional love, loyalty, and sincerity. This is your opportunity, but it is also your obstacle, Cancer, because it's time for you to shift your focus. Celeste talks about a happy move to a new home or a new place of employment, ushering in new energy. But as long as I've worked with this deck, which is some 20 years now, you can move my physical body anywhere on the planet. I have a certain belief system. And unless my beliefs are aligned to my experience, I'm still going to operate more on my beliefs. So you can't really move me and make me happy. So as I'm aware of where my focus is, I realize that if I've been looking for love, my focus has been in the wrong direction. If I'm inviting love in, my focus is aligned to experiencing that. Because in the final position, Cancer, yes, the timing is right. Isabella is saying to expect happiness, expect things, and not with the expectation that is attached to a set of parameters. It's about, when I say those parameters, I'm talking about, oh, I want to meet a guy with a ribbed, stomach and blue eyes, and he can't look like this, or she can't look like that. It's more about how they make you feel, because yes, the timing is right for joy and joy in relationships, and to feel more peace at being yourself in a relationship. So my Cancers, ruled by the moon which rules my emotions, it rules my intuitions. And as I stand in that receptive moon energy, I start to invite love in. As I start to invite love in as a Cancer, part of my job is to remember that I deserve that love. That just because love is being offered to me doesn't mean it's suddenly going to be taken away from me. And to really start to connect with the idea that it's safe for me to be happy. It's safe for me to express joy. And that when I do express that, it also kicks in the law of attraction. So the more joy I experience, the more joy I invite in. The more joy I invite in, the more joy I experience. All right, Let's go on to our Leos. Here we go. All right, Leo Sun, here we go. Let's see what the angels have to say for you. Our first angel is Oceana. The second is Maya. The third is Bethany. And the final is Archangel Gabriel. Oceana talks about being in touch with your truth, to lovingly and trustingly. And this is not about trusting someone else. It's about trusting your oversoul. It's about trusting the plan you made before you came into this planet as a human. It's that subtle urging, the part of you that knows there's something greater underneath the hood that you haven't experienced, and allowing it to come out. Because Oceana is being joined by the letting go card, which is amazing for me. Maya, the card of schooling and education, is being joined by the communications card. Bethany is being joined by the swan, transformation. And then finally we have Archangel Gabriel being joined by the fear card. Leo. Oceana talks about taking action and trusting as you swim towards the surface of your dreams. And she is coming up through the oceans. The whale here represents the soul's yearning. And for those of you that have watched me for a while, you know that the letting go card represents the song Let It Go from the song Frozen, or from the movie Frozen. The song Let It Go from the movie Frozen. It's funny how some distance makes everything look small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. It's time to see what I can do to test limits, to break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. It's time for Leo to be free, to allow yourself to truly take action on what it is you want to move forward in this earthly experience. Now, when I say take action, we're talking about a Mercury retrograde this month. We're talking about 6 out of 10 planets being in Aquarius. Aquarius is very much at this point going to be about innovation. It's going to be about having almost rebellious ideas, liberating energy and behaviors, because what I think is part of this is that there could be this feeling of being restricted, that Leo was restricted. And as a result of being restricted, you want to break free. And it's important for you to remember not to burn bridges as you are breaking free, because Maya is teaching you something about communication. And there's a lot about communication in this spread for Leo, because Bethany is the card of self-care, and then there's the intuitive gifts and the transformation of the swan. So for me, part of this taking action and knowing, from the letting go card, what I believe I'm capable of, now I need to start to think about how am I communicating that to myself. And I need to, as a Leo, look where I'm sort of fighting with myself maybe, or projecting people in my life that I know that would be resistant to my ideas or have practical approaches to my ideas. And in the angel's advice, this is really about trusting an inner knowing more than what's being communicated on the outside, and differentiating between the two within your head. The one that says, yes, I can, and the one that says, I don't know. Because in the final position, we have Archangel Gabriel saying you have an important life's purpose in communications and the arts. And then we have the fear card. And I go back to Oceana and the letting go card, because this month, as Mercury is retrograde and joining the sun, the moon, Venus, Saturn, and Jupiter in Aquarius, there is going to be a cluster of planets in not only a sign of liberation and freedom, but also a sign that creates anxiety and tension. And while I don't necessarily see you being terribly anxious, I do see sort of a bit of a push-pull energy for Leo right now. Sort of that wanting to prove finally everything I know that I am, and yet having to be more mindful about how I approach it, how I am communicating it, not only to myself, but to the outside world, but most importantly to myself, because as I get clarity inside, then when I'm communicating it to the outside, I'm doing it in a much more fertile way. And I'm starting to be able to identify where false evidence appears real. Because I want to remind, if you've never heard me say this before, Leo, that without fear, we would never know achievement. Without fear, we would never know exhilaration. Without fear, we would never know we were the bomb. So sometimes if we reflect back on our most powerful moments, it's when we thought we were the most scared. And then we triumphed over that fear. So that's what's going on for Leo. Let's go on to our Virgos. All right. All right. Virgo, our first angel is Chantal, the angel of romance. The second is Archangel Michael in the opportunity or the obstacle. In the angel's advice, we have Grace and Antoinette, and then we have Serena in the final position. You know, we're having Valentine's Day come February, and it's really interesting how much Chantal has come up this for every one of the signs, close to almost everyone. All right, joining Chantal for our Virgos is the Goblin. Joining Archangel Michael is the Burden card. Joining Grace and Antoinette is the Queen. And joining Serena is the Fear card. Okay, so the very first thing I get is this is all about practicality and reality for Virgo. Chantal being the angel of romance and being here with the ego, it's not speaking to the most hopeful attitude about love. It kind of, as you can see, that the goblin is sticking the tongue out, and Chantal is actually, she's asking me to, in some ways, recognize that I'm vulnerable in love. I don't have to expose myself completely, but I must expose myself. And the ego Virgo is saying, no, don't do that. Don't do that, because what if you're not safe? And I want to say this, for some reason, this doesn't just feel like it's intimate love. It may be in your love body of friends, family, people you cherish in your life. And there may be parts of yourself that have come to light, things you've learned about yourself over the last couple of years that you just don't know how acceptable they might be to the outside world. They don't have to be, it doesn't have to be anything dramatic. It doesn't have to be anything like, you know, declaring, you know, I always said I was a wealthy person, I'm really not. It could be something much more benign, and yet it's something that feels very powerful to your heart, something that you yourself may be judging yourself for, because whatever the ego is crying at you about, is yelling at you about, it is a burden. And Archangel Michael is asking you to have the compassion and the courage to move past the burden, to find a wisdom to the burden in some ways, to give yourself permission to know that it took a long time to get this way. It may take a little while to get out from underneath all of this, because Grace and Antoinette is in the angel's advice, and there's the Queen. And the Grace and Antoinette is about compassion, about seeing things from another person's point of view. And then the Queen to me is about feminine energy, but more so about receiving things. And when I look at this, I feel like Virgo is saying, I don't receive things easily. They don't come to me easily. I have to work hard for them. And if I don't work hard for them, they don't come. And that's a belief that I think the ego is telling you. And so I feel like now is a time to really, in some ways, have to burden yourself with a new approach, And I don't know if that's going to be so easy for you, because in the final position, I have Serena, the angel of abundance, and then I have the fear card. And this is in direct relation to Chantal and the ego. So I would have to say that Virgo is being a bit challenged in trusting that there's a higher power overseeing things in a way that serves your highest and greatest good. And I feel like allowing this Mercury retrograde to really do its magic when it comes to reevaluation, to really look at yourself, because Virgo is a fair sign, I think. You know, your ruling planet Mercury is retrograde, which is why I think this is happening, because I think your mind is going backwards. It's running over old scenarios and it's trying to project into the future what will be as a result of what has been. And I think that the middle of the month, when we have this Uranus squaring Saturn at the 7th degree, which is the house of partnerships, the 7th house, that this is really more about shifting your viewpoint, shifting your possibilities from 0 to at least 50%. And it's not about trying to figure out if you'll be happy right now, because I think that might be even too big of a stretch for your ego to take. It's more about, what am I really afraid of? What am I afraid of when it comes to my love life? Am I afraid of losing control? Am I afraid of someone taking all my money? Am I afraid I won't be able to hold balance if I'm in love? That's what this is about to me. It feels very much like an interior job. It feels like the epiphanies that will be offered, the revelations that this contemplation offers, really opens up an opportunity for you to have new experiences moving forward. And when I say that, it could be something that doesn't necessarily mean that you suddenly are going to create a relationship, but you come to the reconciliation that I don't want a relationship. And it doesn't mean that I'm damaged. It doesn't mean that I'm bitter. It doesn't mean that something is wrong. It means something is very right. That's where I'm going with all of this. All right, let's go on to Libra. I should have said this at the beginning of the video, but for those of you that happen to be watching, I am a Western whole sign astrologer, so this is whole sign I'm talking about, not Placidus. I'll repeat that at the end. All right, Libra, let's see what Spirit has to say for you for the month of February. Our first angel is Crystal. The second is Oceana. The third is Archangel Michael. And the final is Layla. All right, Libra. Joining Crystal is the Letting Go card. Joining Oceana is the Grail Knight. Joining Archangel Michael is the Frog. And joining Layla is the Lady of the Lake. This is very interesting to me. I'm a Libra sun. Libra is a sign of cooperation, the sign of harmony, peace, diplomacy, justice, police, law enforcement. When I look at this spread, I feel as if on some level, Libra is easier. It's easier for you to be balanced and diplomatic and harmonious with somebody else's life than you are being with your own. You may have a higher expectation for yourself than you realize. And so thereby giving others more of a leeway than you give yourself in having and doing it right. I have Crystal and the Letting Go card. The Letting Go card is akin to the song Let It Go from the movie Frozen. And here I'm specifically talking about the line, it's funny how some distance makes everything look small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. Crystal is saying have faith and hope because there's more on the horizon that you cannot see. Now, for me today, for some reason, her wings are very much pulling my focus. They're translucent. Not only can I see her angelic wings that remind me that there's more than just the earth, but that there is something solid about knowing there is more than just the earth. I say that because I can see this orange color that's resonating as my second chakra, my sacral chakra. And I feel like for Libra, the sign of partnership, the sign of compromise, of working with others. And there could very much be a dynamic where you're not feeling that right now. You're still feeling this world dynamic of isolation, of restriction. Because in the opportunity of the obstacle is the Grail Knight, the angel of romance, the angel of seeking the sacred. And for a long time, as I looked at him, I just saw him bowing to Excalibur, the sword of truth. And just recently, I realized he's holding the cup, the Grail, the Holy Grail. And in order for your cup to be full, Libra, on some level, you're going to have reverence for the idea that the cup had to be empty in order to become full. And now it's time to take action from the deepest parts of your heart, not from the part of your heart that worries about what your neighbors might think, or what the other mothers at school might think, or fathers for that matter. Because now is a time to have courage. Courage to make the life changes, to look into your own emotional belief system, and to decide if you're being fair with yourself or if you're only really fair with others. Because in the final position is Layla, asking you to talk to God and the angels about your desires and your intentions, and to have the courage to speak your deepest truth to God and the angels. And that truth may not sound pretty to another human being. It doesn't matter whether it sounds pretty, because it's your truth. And Libra, you're willing to stand for justice in some ways, for that, you know what, I do deserve. I deserve because I breathe. I deserve because I'm not perfect, but I am fabulously flawed. My intentions are in the right place. Doesn't always work out that way, but it isn't because I'm working with malice. And so I feel like this spread is really a bit of a liberating spread for Libra, to liberate yourself from feelings of having to be perfect or having to always defer to the group versus your own needs. Because I feel like every once in a while, if you defer to your needs, you're going to serve the group more. This feels like, when I look at the Grail Knight, and I could go to romance, but it really feels like it's more about breaking up any illusions of, this is what I want to say. When we're children, we have a learning curve. They'll tell you there's the bell curve and practice makes perfect. But when we're adults, we tend to endeavor new things and expect perfect results right away, to master things right away. We don't give ourselves a lot of wiggle room. So when you're endeavoring to utilize this Mercury retrograde to review the things in your life that have felt good for a while, but now just feel like an illusion, don't feel the need to take action on them. Feel the need to connect with spirit about them, to say, what am I pretending not to know about this situation that will serve not only me, but everybody else involved? Because this is a time of reflection. It's a time for balance. And the balance doesn't come for looking for perfection. It's in seeing the wisdom of contrasting experiences, because you don't know what you do want until you've experienced what you don't want. All right, let's go on to our Scorpios. All right, Scorpio Sun, here we go. Trying to give it a good shuffle now. Just want to fly out of the deck. All right. Our first angel for Scorpio is Desiree. The second is Bethany. The third is Xana. And the final is Shanti. Desiree is being joined by the Fear card. Bethany is being joined by the Deer. Xana is being joined by the High Priestess. And Shanti is being joined by the Movement card. All right, my Scorpios. The very first thing I got when I saw Desiree was I thought, oh, Scorpio is a fixed sign. And Desiree talks about conditions not being favorable, to wait, to ask God and the angels for help, and to allow yourself the privilege of a little bit of distance. And then we got the Fear card. And I felt like for Scorpio, that this is really the ghost of Christmas past, that you've been triggered somehow into your fear body and you're making that fear a reality. And it may be more, you know, Scorpio is the natural detective. You feel things that people don't say. You're naturally intuitive. And that intuition came from, initially from more of the challenging dynamics of Scorpio. Feeling out of control made you pay attention to what was going on so you'd feel in control, which then triggered your intuition, but in a way that put it in an alarming place. Because I feel like right now, Bethany is talking about self-care and the Deer is talking about gentleness and diplomacy. And I don't think this is about a deer in the headlights. I think it's about slowing your roll. And when I say slowing your roll, I mean about not acting on what you're being triggered. Okay, so we have Venus entering Aquarius on the 1st of the month. We have a cluster of planets that the Sun, the Moon, Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, and Mercury will all be in Aquarius for about a week or two within the middle of the month at varying degrees, bringing concentrated energy. Well, none of this is hitting your ruling planet Pluto. It is somehow hitting you. I don't know why, because I feel like it's triggering old stories that you're bringing into the present and wanting to, in some ways, take a knee-jerk reaction. And if you take a knee-jerk reaction, it's going to backfire on you. So I feel like I need to slow my roll to really get all my ducks in a row, because there's a bigger vision that's being protected by God and the angels. It's almost as if you were to act on your initial reaction to something, you'd have it so completely wrong that you would be having to do some catch up or some makeup work. But by taking a moment to really examine if this fear is viable or false evidence appearing real, you have a great opportunity to be the agent of peace and to move this story forward in a much more productive way. There is a dynamic this month between Saturn and Uranus creating a square. And that's going to happen 3 times this year. And it's like an old stoic energy structure of some kind that is not serving anymore. And Uranus wants to go in and blow it up. And I hear don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because there's some of that old framing, that old part of that house that is still viable. So I want to offer it this during this Mercury retrograde, which is literally starts today, January 30th. We'll be going until the 20th, 21st, depending upon where you are in the world. And during that 3-week period, we have 6 out of 10 planets in Aquarius offering me liberation and freedom from old dynamics that don't serve me anymore. And it isn't, you know, these dynamics were appropriate at a certain age. When you're learning to ride a bike, training wheels are super helpful, right? But you don't want to be using training wheels forever, because then it will not be indicative of your progress, of your prowess, of your skill. So I think that this month is about taking a bit of a pause, doing your best not to have a knee-jerk reaction to something, but rather to sit back and really wait to see how it plays out, because your perception may be slightly skewed to, again, an old story. And in reality, you'll find out that there's a new story going on and movement that you didn't know was happening. And it is going to usher in more tranquility and joy. All right, let's go on to our Sagittarius. For Sagittarius, I'm focusing on sun signs, Western whole sign astrology. All right, we have Celeste in the foundational position. We have Francesca in the opportunity or the obstacle. We have Indriel in the angel's advice, and we have Astera in the final position. Celeste is being joined by the owl. Francesca is being joined by the stag. Indriel is being joined by the movement card, and Astera is being joined by the protection card. Celeste talks about a new home or a new place of employment, ushering in new energies, positive energies. I always see Celeste as a viewpoint because no matter where you put my physical body, I believe certain things and I take my actions based on those beliefs. So Sagittarius, your ruling planet Jupiter, is going to be conjunct Mercury on the 14th of February, which is Valentine's Day. Again, depending upon where you are in the world, give or take a day. I want to say this way. I believe that you're going to be re-examining your beliefs and what makes you happy, your jobs, your home, and a lot of the things that you may be doing in a mercurial way. So Mercury rules our everyday lives. So many of you may be looking at the jobs you have. You may be looking at where you're living and start to contemplate a new direction. And without a doubt, asking yourself, is this serving where I want to go? Is this really fertile ground for me to walk on so that when I get, 5 years, 10 years down the line, I'm standing closer to where I want to be? Because Francesca is saying, what do you visualize right now? And the stag is asking two things from you: not to get so stuck in your way of looking at things that, and when I say stuck, I mean, oh my God, I've been in this job for 5 years. If I try to change jobs now and do something I like more, I'm throwing 5 years away. That's stubborn pride. Francesca is asking you to demonstrate leadership and to really visualize what you want and not necessarily go back and forth constantly as to why you did what you did. Because if you're feeling a bit of malcontent about it, or you're feeling like, I've been traveling a road professionally that I don't really want to be down, you'll only continue to travel it, and that feeling isn't necessarily going to get any better. So opening up right now your mind, your belief system, not taking action. It's not about quitting your job. It's about opening up to something that brings more joy and excitement to you, that expands your everyday life versus contracting it. Because Spirit is asking you, as you stand and you start to really in leadership of what you're thinking and what you're visualizing, you will be illuminated and movement will start. And when I say movement, the human will always see movement as my hand was here and now it's here. In the universal movement, it is a call to action. The law of attraction starts in. Anything that we muse about for 17 seconds or longer starts to kick in that momentum. At 17 seconds, it's moving pretty slow. But if we're thinking about it for 170 seconds, we're getting some speed. We're thinking about it day after day, we're getting a lot of speed. Because for my Sagittariuses, as Stara is saying, to reach for the stars with your dreams and your desires. And then look at, again, she's pointing to this spot. It's illuminated. And there's the protection card. So I want to offer it this way. For my Sagittariuses, I think that February is going to offer you a month of contemplation, deliberation, assessment, reevaluation, and review. You're going to look at where you've been, where you want to go, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what worked 50%. And then you're going to start to strategize on how to bring the percentages closer to something you can live with. I'm happy 80% of the time. I'm happy 90% of the time. Those of you that are trying to be happy 100% of the time, I don't know if you're living in your human body, because I don't think that's humanly possible, but not because we aren't allowed to be happy. It's because sometimes if we weren't unhappy, we wouldn't know how good it feels to be happy. If we weren't cold, sometimes we wouldn't know how good it feels to be warm. If we sat in the sun all the time, we would crave the shade. It's about balance. So as you contemplate your own perceptions and the permissions you give yourself to move into what truly brings you happiness, you will not only stand in leadership for yourself, but you will also learn something about if your pride works for you or against you. Because that the pride that says, I've done this job for 10 years. I've done this, I'm great at this job. Is it serving your happiness? What's more important? Your happiness is. And Spirit's got you while you reach for the stars. It's not about making big, huge, sweeping changes. It's about starting to invite in a new perspective that leads to fertile ground to bring in new sweeping changes. All right, let's go on to our Capricorns. Capricorn, your ruling planet is Saturn. Saturn is going to have quite a conversation this year with quite a few planets and dynamics. And one of the biggest ones, starting this month in February, is the square between Uranus in Taurus and Saturn in Aquarius. It's going to lead to revolution and renovation of our possessions, our money, our home, how we choose to eat our food, how we choose to find our resources, our viewpoints. These are all very, very great opportunities. So here we go, Capricorn. Our first angel is Oceana. The second is Teresa. The third is Grace and Antoinette. And the final is Archangel Uriel. Every planet and every sign has its higher vibration and its more challenging vibration. With Capricorn, there is a bit of a challenging vibration in that it can be a stoic behavior that will give up its happiness to do what's best for, or what is perceived best for, the collective. Oceana is being joined by the love card, Capricorn. It's time to take action on the things that you love, the things that you find exciting, titillating, engaging, because the focus has been entirely too long on somebody else, on the collective, on others, on a dutiful energy. And Grace and Antoinette is being joined by Merlin, the card of alchemy, justice, and balance. I was watching home shows last night, and I was watching baby goats. They've got to be the happiest little critters on the earth. And yet, when we talk about Capricorn, we sort of see the old goat eating out of the tin can. And I feel like that's an old story, Capricorn, and it's time to start to rewrite that story, because Oceana really, really wants you to take action on the things that you love. And this may be challenging for you, because for such a long time, your focus has been on what has been important for the collective, whatever that collective is, whether it's your professional group, whether it's your family, whether you're, party of one. It's still been about something that feels like it was about something else. Because in the angel's advice, it's time to have compassion for the process of alchemy, the process of justice, the process of balance. Because I believe that February may find yourself in a situation where old structures are breaking down around you and you cannot do anything about it. And while it seems like, everything is falling apart, it's the demolition before the renovation. Because Archangel Uriel is going to help you deal with frustration and anger at the disruption. Capricorn has been going through it. I mean, all the cardinal signs, Capricorn, Cancer, Libra, and Aries, have all been having Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter aspecting you in one way or the other. As a Libra sun and an Aries rising, I've had these planets squaring me, and they have been extremely challenging to my vitality, my physical vitality. And yet, as I persevered past what I had learned from a physical place, from my earthly experience, and continued to engage in spirit to show me a new story, help me understand my own resistance to my happiness, understand my own resistance to my good health, my own resistance to my abundance. Resistance comes in the form of believing what we see with our eyes versus what we hope for with our hearts. And I feel like this whole spread for Capricorn is about engaging you into something that you love, that you like, to have more joyous energy. And in doing so, it will help you to maneuver this disruption that's coming. Because the disruption does not necessarily feel like it's you. It could be the disruption of things around you. The Capricorn 10th house rules government, authority, structures. You know, we're still dealing with COVID, but what I want to offer you, Capricorn, is that this is a very powerful recipe for joy. On some level, there must be a disruption of your own anger and frustration, your own sense of, these are the rules. It doesn't matter whether you like the rules, they're the rules, and you're supposed to follow the rules. Uranus is saying no more. I don't want to follow those rules. They don't work anymore. We no longer need to, trade our daughters for a cow. We no longer need to bear sons to work the fields so that we can eat. And there's an old vibration within Capricorn that this dynamic for the last 2 years of having Pluto and Saturn coming together in your sign. Now, your ruling planet has moved out of Capricorn. It's in Aquarius now, but it's still making aspects that are requiring you to look at the structure of your life and decide if that structure is really where you want to go or what you've just known and gotten used to. Because Saturn rewards hard work. And when we start to do the hard work in the lane of what we love, Saturn will bring joy and long-lasting, rooted, grounded joy. So surrender this month if you find yourself in a bit of a disruptive energy. And when I say surrender, it's not about giving up. It's not about relinquishing your power. It's about re-examining what's really important to you. And if you want to fight for something that's not that important to you. All right, let's go on to our Aquariuses. Capricorn, Aquarius. I didn't miss anybody. Sorry, I missed anybody. Here we go, Aquarius. A lot of action happening for you guys. Wow, stellium in your house. And if you have other planets there, pay attention. And I want to offer this for you, Aquarians. When you look at your birth chart and you have planets in Aquarius, look at the aspects. I have my moon in Taurus at 9 degrees and Uranus is creeping up on it. And as I looked at it, I realized it's not just going to do something to my emotional body, but it is triggering 2 grand trines in my chart. So it's triggering the moon, Saturn, Venus, and Pluto. And a trine is a positive aspect. It's a harmonious aspect. So on some level, I can look forward to and put an intention out to have a fabulous experience during this time of change that Uranus is offering. So look there, Aquarius, because with all those planets convening in that one sign, there's a lot of power there. All right. And our first angel is Crystal. Have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon. The second is Rochelle. Follow your heart. Aquarius is the sign and the house of the hearts. I don't want to confuse it with the 5th house, but it's very much hopes and desires, because the 5th house, Leo, rules the heart, but it's in a conversation with Aquarius. So where Leo rules the personal heart, the Aquarius would rule the collective heart and how my personal heart contributes to the collective heart. Then, okay, so for Aquarius, we have Crystal in the foundational position, Rochelle in the opportunity of the obstacle, Indriel in the angel's advice, and Daniel in the final position. We have Crystal being joined by the communications card. We have Rochelle being joined by the Raven. We have Indriel being joined by the Queen. And we have Daniel being joined by the letting go card. You know, Uranus is a sign of liberation, of freedom, of very different thinking, very, you know, some people may, you know, if they're Uranian ruled, may feel like they're aliens out there. But I want to say this, to me, it's about doing things your own way. Loving who you love in the way you want to love them, loud and proud, and however that looks. Because Crystal is saying, have faith and hope there's more on the horizon that you can't see. And now it's time to start giving that your self-talk. Mercury's in retrograde. Mercury rules communications, rules our thinking, our speaking, how we write, how we process information. And I feel like for Aquarius, this being aware of my interior talk, how much faith do I give things? How much do I think? Maybe it's a timing issue. Maybe there's just, you know, I'm not the only one that wants something. That great, you know, job opportunity. They're looking for me as much as I'm looking for them. That relationship, that person is looking for me as much as I'm looking for them. Because Rochelle is saying to follow and trust the guidance of your heart. And the Raven is saying magic is coming. And there's something about synchronistic events. There's something about the timing of things. And that timing has very much to do with Indriel being the light worker, allowing for an epiphany, and then the receiving of something. The Queen receives. She does not push forward. So Aquarius, this is very much about you being on the receiving end of something. And I want to offer it this way, because Daniel is the angel of marriage, and the letting go card for me is akin to the song Let It Go from the movie Frozen. It's funny how some distance makes everything look small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. I believe that this month, very much so, that Aquarius could be liberated from old ideas and old ways of thinking about partnerships, about who and what you are in that partnership. I don't know if it's focused in on the other person. And I feel like that as you trust your I want to say ingenuity, your innovativeness, your uniqueness, there is a match for you, both professionally, personally, intimately, remotely, and it's your time. It's your time, Aquarius, to embrace all that Aquarius is: a thinker, a speaker, a teacher, an influencer, and an influencer that allows for your own personal desires, appetites, wants, thoughts to be accepted and celebrated in the world. Because as you allow them to live in the vibration of love, I'm hearing that song, The Age of Aquarius, in the back of my head, then you are inadvertently inviting people to accept your invitation. And that is one of embracing the uniqueness, of celebrating the diversity, of, I can't think of another adjective, but whatever it is, it's exciting. It's exciting to allow ourselves to be different than we were or are. All right, let's go on to our final sign, Pisces. And Pisces, oh, Venus is going to enter your sign at the end of February. That's delicious. She loves being in your sign. She feels romantic and sexy and attractive and desirable. How fun is that? But let's get to the retrogrades first. The Mercury retrograde. All right, here we go. Pisces, our first angel is Vanessa. The second is Isabella. The third is Shanti. And the final is Mystique. Vanessa is being joined by the restriction card. Isabella is being joined by the movement card. Shanti is being joined by the bee. And Mystique is being joined by the wasp. Okay, so before Venus moves into your sign on February 25th, we're going to have a full month of a Mercury retrograde. And I want to offer it this way for you, Pisces. I feel like I'm hearing there's got to be a morning after. Because Vanessa is asking you if you're going to make your decisions based on faith or fear. And there's the restriction card. And I feel like that restriction card is really more about an unsureness within yourself if you have the stamina to have the amount of faith you're going to have in order to move your story forward. And I'm not getting an exact genre of what this is, but I want to go back to Venus because she doesn't just represent love. She represents self-worth. She represents in some ways, our talents and our gifts. Being an artist, being a creator, being a crafter, things we do with our voice, things we do that we love, the kind of possessions, the things that we collect, the things that we hold of value. Because in the opportunity, the obstacle, Isabella is saying, yes, the timing is right to be happy. And there's the movement card. And the movement card is in relation to the angel's advice and offering of peace. But I've got to look at my beliefs as a Pisces. I've got to go back to what do I really believe? Because there's a layer of what I want to believe about myself. And then there's the layer of what I really believe. I want to believe I'm deserving. I want to believe that things are going to get better. But underneath, I don't know if I can. And if you can't, then call upon your guides and your angels to engage you into a higher vibration. Because Mystique is asking you to keep charging ahead, to expect miraculous solutions. You're in a process. And then there's the wasp. The wasp is a stinging energy. So the process doesn't feel easy. It feels like I want to swim away. It feels like I don't feel I'm being protected, but that's not true. So I want to offer it this way. This month, the month of February 2021, when Mercury is in retrograde for most of the month, I want you to take this opportunity to look at where you're restricting yourself, where your beliefs are based on not just your own experiences, but other people's experiences that they've shared with you. And if for some reason their inability to manifest what it is they wanted, or their trepidation about their ability to create has fueled or watered or fostered an insecurity within yourself, I think it's time to stop and to truly engage the Neptune aspect. Neptune rules you. Neptune is a very spiritual planet. And in some ways, it represents an egoless energy. But that egolessness also doesn't allow me to be celebrated. And so we need to find balance there. We need to be able to find a place where you can be celebrated and still feel a sense of humility about it, and allowing your faith to lead you in a place that your experience hasn't been yet. So be gentle with yourself this month, because when Jupiter, the ancient ruler of Pisces, is conjunct Mercury on Valentine's Day, it may ding your love body just a little bit. It may make you feel like, what's love got to do with it anyway? And it's got everything to do with it. And I just feel like, rather than going to a place of making a firm decision, maybe you're calling upon spirit to give you the eyes and the physical experience that gives you the faith that you need to anchor in and hone in on what your heart knows it wants. There is a bigger experience headed for you, Pisces, and I don't think you can see it right now. So you're going to have to let your interior voice be the guide. And the challenge is differentiating between your soul's voice and your ego's voice, because your soul is going to tell you to keep charging ahead, to expect miracles. And your ego is going to say, are you sure? There's no miracles right now. Put your mask on. Be quiet. No, I don't want to be quiet. I don't need to be quiet. I just need to keep taking one step at a time. And to remember that the light is still shining on me, even though most of me is in the dark. All right, guys, that's it for this month. Again, my name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, Reiki master, And I'm calling myself an intuitive astrologer because I can't leave my intuition out of anything anymore. If you'd like to book a private reading with me, please feel free to go into the information below. The link is there, and I'll be back next week with your weekly Pick an Angel spread. It's your weekly intuitive experience for you to allow your intuition to lead you to your guidance for the week. But for this week's Heavenly Horoscopes, or this month, we're concluding. And that's it. That's all I got to say. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing. And thanks for liking. I'll see you on Monday or Tuesday. Bye, everybody.